Hello and welcome to the Fairy Little podcast. I'm Marsha, also known as Fairy Little, and this is my podcast all about knitting and a little bit of spinning sometimes and a little bit of sewing sometimes as well. I'm coming to you from the sunny Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, Canada, and it is the beginning of March. So thanks for joining me today. And I don't have a ton to talk about because I've been doing a lot of monogamous knitting. But I did cast something new on today, so let's get to it. In today's episode, I'm going to show you some things I've been working on. I have absolutely no finished objects, so that's not going to be a thing today. And just kind of what I have been doing over the last 2 weeks. So first off, I want to start with what I have been working on. So I've still been working on the brioche scarf that I showed you last week, and it is being housed in my You Sew and Sew bag with the beehives on it. And here it is. It's almost done. I am almost to the point of doing this pattern. It repeats on the other side. So I'm almost to that point where, and I haven't decided if I'm going to finish it. It's a scarf that I'm using for a class I will be teaching in May at the Sorrento Knitting Retreat, and it's called the Basics Brioche Basics Scarf, and it's by Suzanne Summer, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, so you can go and see it there. And she's got some amazing photo tutorials on here to make it easier for, if you're new, to see how the stitches work up, and great explanations on it as well. It's very well written, so I'm really enjoying it, and it is coming along. The first part is learning how to increase and decrease, and then you just are two-color brioching, and then at the end, it's increase and decrease. So it's quite a long scarf. It is knit out of Malabrigo Rios, and the white is the natural colorway, and the green is lettuce. So it's the Malabrigo Rios, yeah. So each skein has 210 yards to 100 grams. I ended up getting 4 skeins, just because it was going to be a little bit short and I didn't want it to end up short. So this is actually going to give me enough for the scarf, plus doing a swatch for the class as well, plus doing an additional swatch that I start to just show examples on. And it is a superwash wool. So it is, if I choose to block it, it will grow quite a bit. So it's going to be even bigger than it is now. I really like it. It has slip stitches at the beginning and at the end, so it gives it a nice round edge, and it's goes between the different colors to bring them both together at the edge. It's a super intuitive knit, and it's really like it's TV knitting, because once you get past this part, it's all just the same. So you're just going one way, the other way, you know. So it's really, really beautiful, and I am enjoying it immensely. So I kind of feel like I don't want it to be done yet because I am enjoying it so much, and it is so squishy and lovely. So, but by the next time I record it, it probably will be done, and then I'll have some swatches done as well for that class that I'm teaching. And it looks like the Sorrento retreat is all booked up, so I don't think there's any more spaces available for that retreat, but there's a few waiting lists, which is really cool. And so that's what's being housed in there. So another thing I have been working on is a shawl design that I started last year in Sorrento at the retreat. I took a circular shawl knitting class and decided at that point that I would actually it's a pattern that I would write up and make available. So I've been working on that. In the class, I was knitting it on lace weight yarn. I cannot remember what this yarn is, but it's knit on a lace weight yarn. And that is as far as I got on the beginning prototype. Then I wrote it up, and I have been working on that monogamously over the last, I cast it on Monday. I cast it on. So, and it is going to be called, I have to read it. It's the Pasqua Shawl. And it's funny because it's not an English word, and I chose it, but it actually means Easter. So it is a 3-color shawl, and it is going to be massive. So this is how far I am now. On the original that I had started, I got to here, and that's where I stopped in the lace weight, but I'm going to finish knitting that one up in the lace weight as well. But this one is actually in fingering weight. So this bright pink I dyed up the other day, and it's a very fluorescent pink. I don't know if it's going to actually show up as vibrant as it is, but it is a merino silk cashmere blend yarn, and it is so nice and lovely and squishy to knit with. And then the multicolor that I'm doing this chunk of lace is Noble Ruby's design, and the yarn is called Do Something Happy. And it is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. So that's that one. And she has a shop on she has a shop on Etsy and has some very gorgeous yarns, and I got that one last year in the summer, I do believe. I just needed some happiness, and that was my happiness. And the cream off-white the cream off-white is by Handmaiden, and it's Casbah, 81% merino, 9% cashmere, 10% nylon. And this one it's 100 grams and 355 yards is what it is. So they all have about 400 yards. This one actually has I do believe it's 460 yards. The Noble Ruby design has 400 yards, and then the Casbah is 355 yards. So this one's under 400, but because of how I have the pattern, I always try to use as much yarn as possible in my designs from the skein, because I don't like a wasted skein. So that is being worked on, and it's a really nice knit. Like, I always enjoy lace, and it's very intuitive in that when I know which row I'm on in the lace, then I know what's happening, and it's really easy to follow. It's not a complicated, it looks more complicated than it is. It's not as complicated as it looks. So, and it's a 8-row repeat, but it's so beautiful, and using the cashmere blend yarn is just such a beautiful, happy place. And these colors are so spring Easter colors, so I'm really excited about it. It is a pie shawl, so it's knit in the round. It actually isn't like that big, it's just because of the needles I have it on. And these needles are, I can't remember, I think they are, I think these are Knit Pros. I could be wrong. I don't have the package for them anymore. But they're really nice to knit with. They've got a nice sharp point, so it makes knitting lace easier. Knitting lace, usually you should have a bit of a pointier needle. So that these are really good for that. And then that's also why I like the high sharps, because they're really nice for knitting lace. And this has been housed in my Magster bag. And this was sent as a gift to me, and I actually spilt coffee on it this week. And I wiped it off as quickly as I could, but it didn't get on the knitting, it just got on the bag. So as soon as I'm done, I'll just throw that in the washing machine and clean it up. And it's just very nice bag, and it's good and squishy, so you can put it places very easily. After I recorded the last podcast and said that I was going to finish all of my objects, I decided to cast on things instead, because I'm a liar, apparently. And I don't care about the rules that I make for myself. So I grabbed some yarn, and it is 100% wool, and I'm not sure where it's from, but I think it could be the McCausland Woolen Mill in Prince Edward Island. That is where I think this yarn originated from, but I'm not 100% sure. And it is this beautiful, like, tealy green color, and it's in this cool little yarn bowl that I have. I actually ordered this on Amazon, and it's wood, and it got stuck in customs for like almost a month, and they opened it up to check it out, I'm assuming because there's certain kinds of wood that can't come into Canada, and they want to make sure that it's bug free, I'm assuming, because there's huge rules around natural things coming into the country, because it just protects our forests and stuff. But yeah, so I ordered that, and then I cast this on, and I just really honestly just started knitting. I really want it's a bulkier yarn, so it looks like it's almost a worsted here, but when you give it its bath, it plumps up to more of a chunky. And I'm knitting it on 6mm needles, which is a 10 US, and these are high sharp interchangeables, and they just have the clear wire. These ones are nice. They're a little bit, I use them a lot, so they have the shorter tips. It's like the 4-inch tips, so this part here gets, like, that's how I kind of hold it, so it gets bent a bit because of how I hold it. It's not really a big deal to me. I don't even notice it, so, but it is, like, I notice it right now when I'm talking about it, that's a little bit bent. This one's not. It's just how I'm holding it, I guess. But I cast on a bunch of stitches and then I started doing a 1x1 rib, and I just want this to be a big, like, just oversized wool scratchy cardigan that I can take camping and just wear cozied up by the fire, and it's just something that, it smells sheepy right now. There's lots of lanolin in it, so it does have a bit of a feeling on your hands, and it has vegetable matter, which I don't mind at all. It's coming along very nicely. It's going to be very, very large. I just cast it on for fun, and I'm still working on the ribbing. I just was cleaning up my yarn room, and then I saw yarn and knitting needles, and I got distracted. And I feel like for me, that's kind of how my creativity works. It just hits me, and I just go with it, but I get really distracted really easily. I leave things half done, and then I totally forget what I was doing over there, and I'm doing something over here now. And I know that I have ADD, and that's part of it, but it's also part of how my creative mind works as well, that I really have to make myself focus and sit down and do something. And even with other designs that I have so many other designs that are A, started, B, written up, C, with the tech editor and test knitters, and they require something from me at this point. You know, everything's kind of, I get distracted in that if I have a new idea, then that's the thing that I'm like really, really focused on. And so I really have to make myself just sit down and do that thing till it's done, and then allow myself to move on. But I find that very difficult. So like when I design, so that the brioche top that I designed was really, it was so fluid for me to do that. And I was like, hey, this. And then like all of a sudden my cowl has sleeves, and I'm like, okay, you're not a cowl anymore. Moving on. What are we going to do here? Like, what's happening here? Cowl? Like, you're not a cowl anymore. You're a sweater. So what are we doing? And then for the color, what shall we do here? And that part of the process is very, like, it's very organic and fluid for me, and that comes so naturally. But then sitting down and typing it up and doing all the math and then doing all the grading, that stuff I really have to make myself just sit down and do, because for me that's the paperwork part it's not as fun for me. So like if I could have somebody who I would take my designs and write out my main pattern and then send it off and get everything else done, that would be perfect for me, because then I could just keep creating. And that also is why shawls are much easier, because it's just generally it's one size. I have one shawl that I have 5 sizes written for because I did. But as far as like sweaters and things, like I want to make sure that that if somebody's buying the pattern, that it is going to fit them well. But everybody's bodies are so different, so the same pattern isn't going to necessarily flatter or fit well on every body type too. But I try, but it's hard. And yeah, so I have to sit down and do some more typing up paperwork. And that process, when I do sit down and do it, it goes really quickly for me, but it's just making myself, reining myself in and just sitting down and doing it, I guess, is the best way to describe that. I'm really going to try to sit down and get some things written up, because I have so many things that should just be written up, and I should just finish the knit, and some things you guys have never even seen that I have, that, you know, I'm thinking that maybe I'll submit them to some magazines and see if we can get them published through a magazine. Yeah, I have no idea how I would do that. I'm still learning so much. So yeah. So on to the next thing. So you might be wondering what I am wearing. So what I'm wearing is the Skaha sweater that I designed. And it is in sweet fiber yarn in the Luna colorway. And it is so comfortable and so nice. I love this sweater. I wear it constantly. And I love the length of it and the feel of it. It is so comfortable. And how I have the decreases here actually reduces arm bulk. If that's ever been an issue for you, that arm bulk, how I've done the decreases the amount of arm bulk in the raglan portion of the decreases. So I love this sweater so much. And with our renovation that we have going on, we have a friend who is an electrician, and he came over and he's done a ton of work for us. And I was talking to him about all the work he's done for us, and I said, you know, I really want to do something for you. And he said that he would love it if I knit him a sweater. And this sweater, he really likes the pattern of it. So I am going to be knitting him this sweater, and I I sent him some colors. He wanted gray, so I've sent him some colors for the sweater, and it is, he wants it a bit bulkier, so it's a chunky yarn by Madeline Tosh, and it is in the smokestack colorway. So I've ordered 6 skeins of that, and I'm 3 skeins short. So I posted on my social media that I was these 3 skeins short, and Madeline Tosh got a hold of me and said, get a hold of us and we will help you out. So I called them, and they said that they would be sending me the 3 skeins that I need. And so I just, of course I pay for them, but they reached out to me so that I could get those 3 skeins, because I was having difficulty. I went through all of their shop lists and was trying to find these magical 3 skeins, and I could not. So I've touched base with them, and they are going to follow up with an email. I haven't received my email yet regarding that, but I look forward to probably hearing from them in the next week and sending them that information so that they can forward that to me. So that is going to be happening. I will be casting that on as soon as the yarn comes in, and I'm very excited about that. Also, you may notice I've got some, I'm going the wrong direction. I've got some lovely colors going on here. I had some holes in my yarn stash for semi-solid yarns. So I did some dyeing the other night. These are not going to be for sale. These are they're just for my use, and they are the same blend as the bright pink that I dyed. That was one of the colors that I dyed the other night. And so these are merino, cashmere, silk blends. So I've got 5 sweaters quantities here for me. They're all fingering weight, and so I have like a turquoise, a blue, really bright fluorescent green, and a pink here, and this color is a purple and like a silver blue blend. It's really, really pretty in person. So I'm really excited about this one. I'm probably most excited about this one. I think I'm going to knit a sweater out of that. It makes me really, really happy. I haven't decided what that's going to look like yet. I'm still working on it. As well as I've been in contact with Susan from Riverstone Yarns, and she's going to be sending me 3 more skeins of yarn to reknit my brioche sweater that I showed on the last episode. It's right here. I'll just show you quickly. Because I'm writing up the pattern, and I usually knit my patterns up twice and make any changes that need to be made. So I'll be doing the math for this top, and I'll be reknitting it and just playing with it a bit and working out the sizing. So that is going to be coming up too. Thank you for the overwhelming support for that sweater, and that so many of you are going to be interested in knitting it up. I will be writing up the pattern. So thank you so much for that. That is happening. So somebody asked me a question below my episode last 2 weeks ago. That question was about tech editors. So I'm just going to take a minute here and talk about what a tech editor is and how you can find one and what they do. So I have a tech editor that looks over my patterns, and her name's Fatima, and Fatima is Nick Knacker Natters on Instagram, and she had a podcast. I'm not sure if she's still podcasting or if it's just off and on that she's podcasting, but she is a tech editor. And what a tech editor is somebody who looks over your patterns that you design and can give you suggestions, spell check, checks your math, that sort of thing when you're doing sizing. And different tech editors offer different options. So some tech editors will actually do grading for you. And what grading is if you design a sweater, they will do the math to get the larger sizes or smaller sizes, etc., from whichever size that you make. So they can do the grading for you, and then so the designer can focus on more of the designing instead of the math. You just design and you come up with your pattern. A lot of magazines and publishers will actually do grading for designers. So designers will knit the sample and give the math for the sample, and then a magazine will go through and they have their own tech editors that will do the grading and the checking and the editing and that sort of thing. So, but not all tech editors do that. Some tech editors will do charts for lace, some do not. Some will do written directions for charts, and some do not. So it's very important, if you are designing and you are looking for a tech editor, that you find one that you work well with, that understands what you're trying to achieve with your patterns, and that offers the services that you really need for what you are designing. And sometimes you might need a second tech editor if you really like the tech editor that you're working with, but they don't offer everything that you need. Then just discuss with them that is in fact the case, and then you can actually find a secondary tech editor to handle those things that the primary tech editor doesn't do. But if you do go ahead and do that, each tech editor charges a different amount. Some charge for the total pattern finished thing. Some charge per hour. Some charge per like event that you are. So if say you send something to your tech editor and they look over it and send it back, and then something gets missed. Some tech editors will charge to go back through and fix that, and some will just say, oh, that's just part of the fee that I charge. So it's very important, if you're using a tech editor, to get those details so that you're not surprised, because that's the kind of you need to have a really good working relationship. Sometimes if you're interested in achieving something, you have to be able to write it in a way that other people understand what it is you're writing. And if your tech editor isn't understanding what it is you're trying to accomplish, then you need to be fluid enough to be able to rewrite it in a way that somebody picking up your pattern is going to be able to read it. So I just wanted to cover a little bit of that. There are more details when using a tech editor, but I know that this isn't going to be something that would be interesting to everybody, and some people it's very interesting. So if you happen to be a tech editor and you are watching this podcast, feel free to go down below the video and put your contact information and that you're a tech editor, so that if somebody is watching this podcast and they're looking for a tech editor, then they can just go down and see what kind of options, and then you guys can start having a dialogue and that sort of thing. I feel like that would be really helpful to some people who are just getting into the foray of designing. So yeah. So now I'm going to go into jibber jabber. Jibber jabber is just me talking about what's going on in life, and that's it. What has been going on is we have finally finished with the structural stuff with our renovation, and the electrician has come in and done some major work. So now we're just waiting for the drywallers to come in and drywall, and then they're going to mud and paint. And then we have the flooring people coming in and doing that, and then the last little details. And then the whole claim thing will be done, and I'm so excited to be done with that. And it's I'm really looking forward to having that room back, and to be able to just not have so many people that I don't know in my house. So I'm really looking forward to that moment that's coming up. I've been looking into possibly hosting a knitting retreat. So I'm in the early stages yet. I really enjoy knitting retreats, and I've started reaching out to different people that I know have attended quite a few knitting retreats, and also people who have planned knitting retreats. because I really would like to plan one that is in the area that I live in, but is just really relaxing. And I think that the location that I've been thinking of, I've reached out to them already. And I think that it's going to be something that would just be really just so soothing and relaxing and a great relief for the middle of winter. So I'm planning it for next February, I'm thinking. It's still in early stages. I don't know if they have availability at that time. And I have so many questions because I've never planned an event like this. So I'm making my checklists and working through it, and hopefully by probably September, October, I will be able to open up registration for it, and then people could plan to have a nice, relaxing weekend away in the Okanagan. And yeah, so that is what I'm thinking. It would not be a big vendor event. That's not what I envision at all. I envision something that's very like lots of knitting, maybe a couple instructors, just speaking throughout the day, and people can kind of come and go as they please, more relaxed, but also lots of knitting time. Like that's what I envision, is a lot of just relaxing and knitting time, and being able to just get together. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's still so early, so it might not even go, but I'm doing some legwork to find out if it would be even worthwhile. And I think that there's a lot of events going on in the States, and also in Europe, even in February and March, but there's not as many retreat kind of things in this side of Canada, the west coast of Canada, during that time. So I just think it would be a nice reprieve from some of the winters that we have here, and just a nice relaxing event. So that's what I'm thinking about. That's kind of like my brainstorming's been going on, and yeah, so I think that's it for me for today. It was a nice and short one. I hope you have an amazing day, amazing week, an amazing month. And until next time. I'm forgetting something. I don't know what it is. It's something important, I feel like. Oh yes.